everyone, and welcome to Intro to OpenShift on IBM Cloud for Legacy Java App Migration, provided by Red Hat and Stonedraw Group. My name is Andrea Alexander with Stonedraw Group, and I will be your host for today's event. In today's workshop, we're going to demonstrate how to set up Red Hat OpenShift on IBM Cloud in order to migrate your legacy applications. For those of you not familiar with Stonedraw Group, we are a Red Hat Apex partner specializing in DevOps transformation. We work with companies of all sizes to implement best practices using Red Hat solutions. As part of our service offerings, we have two items that may be of interest to those attending today's session. The first is our OpenShift Container Platform Accelerator. This service provides the subscription and services necessary to implement an OpenShift container platform. In our accelerator engagement, our consultants conduct a thorough analysis of our client's current infrastructure, application workloads, and their desired future state of application offerings. From there, we'll create and execute an implementation plan that establishes a new OpenShift cluster, provides a migration path for existing applications, and delivers a runbook for the creation of greenfield applications. We do provide all of the subscriptions needed as well as consulting services to ensure you successfully implement OpenShift. Key areas improved through the implementation of Red Hat OpenShift include reduced complexity, modernized applications, shared accountability, and improved collaboration. This service has been a very successful engagement with our clients who are looking to eliminate redundant expenditures, modernize their application workloads, and increase velocity to roll out new applications. The second item I wanted to bring to your attention is our complimentary trial of OpenShift. This is available at our website, and you can request a fully licensed and configured 3-node OpenShift trial environment. So this is information available at our website at stonedrawgroup.com. We'll be sending this deck out following today's event, so you'll have access to these details as well. And you can find out more at our website. Thanks again for joining us today. Red Hat and Stonedraw Group have teamed up to provide a series of workshops to enhance your knowledge and skills with Red Hat solutions. For this particular session, this is our second session. Following today, we've got 2 additional workshops. Our next one is going to be held on July 8th. That is Red Hat for Windows Administrators Part 2. And then our final one is going to be August 5th, Migrating Legacy Applications. We hope you can join us for these events in the coming months, and our team will send the series schedule and registration information to all participants following today's event. Just a few housekeeping items. If you are experiencing audio issues, you can dial in using the toll-free number provided on your screen. That's 888-788-0099. Our webinar ID is 943-2618-3966, and the password is 645753. If you do need assistance, please contact a member of the Stonedraw Group technical support team at webinar@stonedrawgroup.com, and our team members are standing by ready to assist. For those interested, we are recording today's event, and we'll be sending out links to all participants to access to the event recording and the presentation materials. A little bit of information about today's format. We do have both a demonstration and a lab. So the demonstration is going to last approximately 20 to 30 minutes. Then we're going to break out into groups for the lab work. Those of you who elected the hands-on lab, you should have received your credentials in a separate email. Those participants who elected just to watch the demonstration, you're going to be able to remain on this bridge, and we'll give you more information at the end of the presentation. During the lab, we ask that all participants submit questions through Zoom's chat feature, and you can find this on the bottom of your screen where it says chat, and our instructors will address your questions as soon as they're able. At this time, I'd like to introduce our featured instructor, CJ Meidlinger with the Stonedraw Group. CJ is a senior consultant at Stonedraw Group, where he helps clients migrate applications to the Red Hat OpenShift container platform. We also have our Overflow Lab demonstrator, which will be Mike McDonough, and our technical support will be Mike Savage. So thanks to our talented team of instructors for facilitating this workshop. CJ, I will pass the session over to you.
Thanks, Andrea. All right, so welcome everyone to our Red Hat virtual workshop here. Today we're going to look at an introduction to OpenShift, specifically on IBM Cloud. And we're going to look at it in the context of migrating a legacy Java application into this containerized orchestrated world. So we are going to cover a fair amount of ground, and when we do this, we'll touch on some things in the lab. We'll talk about a couple things here in the presentation. A lot of this is to give you a full picture of OpenShift. We don't have the time to go into all the details of, the features and functions of OpenShift that are available. The OpenShift world is pretty vast. So what we've done, we've tried to focus on the things that folks are most interested right now, and give those procedures, a highlight in this workshop, so that you can kind of see where an app migration would touch on various features of OpenShift. So in this one here, the key takeaway is show you what the OpenShift tools are for migrating applications. We're going to use Java specifically, but the concepts can apply to pretty much any application. And at the end of the labs, the big takeaway for you guys is to be able to successfully configure and deploy a Hello World style application on OpenShift. And in the lab exercises, you'll do it three different times. One will be the template that comes out of the OpenShift catalogs. Anybody that spins up an OpenShift cluster will have this catalog of ready to go out of the box templates that they can use. We'll start with that, and then we'll be spinning up another application that is a little more complex. It'll be a Java app that has a SQL backend, and you'll go ahead and set that up. And then the third one is we're going to be using templates that were created by one of the consultants at Stone Door to show you how you can deploy an app that integrates with Service Mesh. So hopefully with those three looks at deploying Java, you'll be able to come away and say, yes, I can spin up a Java application in OpenShift. So the workshop assumptions are, this is kind of like the expected audience, that you might be running Java applications on standalone servers or virtual machines for various needs, and that you might be facing certain challenges with those. And so you're looking at OpenShift to see if OpenShift can help mitigate or remove a lot of the challenges that you have. Excuse me. So some of these challenges include multiple deployment environments. If you have, especially a Java app, right? Let's say you're running it on WebSphere in one department, and you're running it on JBoss in another department. You might have different, frameworks and platforms that you're deploying to. And even if you're deploying to a single web application server like WebSphere, you might be running a version on Linux. You might be running a version on Windows. You might be running multiple versions. And when you have these multiple deployment environments, that's a huge challenge. And even if you've tested the heck out of something, you never know for sure until you've deployed it into the environment you'd expect. Because even if you push something out to JBoss and it works 100% of the time in your test scenario, who knows how that server or VM was configured? Did they add some other applications on there that displaced the shared libraries that you had in your test environment? And so that is always a concern. And so one of the aspects of the OpenShift world is containerization, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. And we'll show you how that's going to help mitigate this problem of multiple deployment environments. Scaling is difficult, because in a what might be called legacy software deployment lifecycle world, there's a lot of overhead to deploying an application, relatively speaking. And so when you want to spin up, we want to increase your WebSphere cluster and add a couple more nodes, you would probably have to either spin up a few VMs, or if you're running on bare metal, you would have to acquire the hardware and get the bare metal ready to go before you can deploy your application server and then your code. And then with OpenShift, it's an orchestrated system. So once you've deployed an app, the scaling is kind of built in, and there's some auto scaling. Again, that's one of the things that we don't really have room to get into today. But we can manually scale some stuff, and you're going to be doing that in the lab. So you can see how easy it is to spin up multiple instances of an application and have them automatically load balanced against a service address. And so scaling is one of the hallmarks of OpenShift, if you will, as far as being able to handle new loads. Another challenge is slow updates with new features. So in the standard sort of lifecycle, ITSM sort of lifecycle management for software, you are going to have to go through various checks and balances. You might have several release managers and so on. And although this feature is not unique to OpenShift, it is what we call like CI/CD ready. So if you're looking at CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration, continuous deployment, or delivery, depending on which D you use, the features that you add to your software can be, as the title suggests, continuously integrated. So with CI/CD, things are all automated, one step to the next step to the next step. A lot of folks are still automating it through delivery, not so much through deployment, but there are folks out there that are doing it all the way through deployment. And so the updates are very, very fast. They are integrated with change management systems, so it's not like you have to abandon any sort of governance that you might have had. And again, this is not something that's unique to OpenShift, but OpenShift does come with a bunch of prepackaged tools, a lot of built-in integrations with various CI/CD pipeline tools and facilities, and it's got a nice open API too. So if you bring your own automation, making it happen in OpenShift is pretty trivial. So these 3 reasons are now 4. Ignore that numeral in the top line there. So 3 reasons we choosing to migrate to OpenShift. Well, again, the containerization is going to help us mitigate against multiple environments. When we containerize an application, we're taking that application process and we're bundling it with all the dependencies that it needs. And then we're taking that bundle and we're isolating it from the other processes on the host. So the scenario I described earlier where your test environment may have a bunch of shared libraries and then you go to deploy it and some other software that was deployed onto the same node is interfering with that, with containerization, that's not going to be an issue. The clustered platform has all the scaling built in. It also has, self-healing. So if you do lose a node for whatever reason, and it happens, the orchestrator in OpenShift will know that one of your pods is down, and if you need to be maintaining, say, 5 instances of your app, and sees that one is gone, it'll automatically spin up a new one on a healthy node. And there are tons of other advantages to running in a clustered platform because all this stuff is kind of built in and it manages it for you. Mentioned CI/CD. Jenkins is a popular thing. I think there's several templates we have with Jenkins up on the Red Hat community of practice. There are examples of, turnkey examples actually. You can download the code, apply a couple of deployments or deployment configs, and you have yourself a Jenkins server up and running, and you can build a pipeline on that. Some folks I'm working with right now are going to be adding GitLab runner pipelines to that community of practice. So keep an eye out for that. And then the newest reason is the service mesh. So when you adjust your application to be more of a cloud native, 12-factor microservice architecture, these bits of code will be talking to each other. And there are tools within OpenShift to help you manage that. We've had egress filters and ingress filters and all sorts of things like that to set up. But with Service Mesh, we get a slightly easier framework to work with. We've got a next slide here is a drawing. Yeah, there we go. So the Service Mesh architecture looks something like this. And this is when you deploy Service Mesh in your lab environment, you'll see that the control plane has more than 4 pieces to it. I think our default is around 11. And how it works is you've got your control plane, which has the Service Mesh, which is your kind of management layer. And then in the data plane is where your application's running. And the really cool thing about Service Mesh, from my point of view, is that you don't have to modify any of your application code to take advantage of it. The way it's implemented is a sidecar container is placed alongside your application container inside a pod. And that's the one that's referred to as Envoy in this drawing. So instead of trying to set up security for your app, well, from app to app, right, from service to service, or trying to throttle traffic or route traffic and build all that stuff into your automation or build it into the application, just by having this Envoy sidecar container allows you to take care of all that. So the service in pod 1 here, when it wants to talk to pod 2, that request, that network traffic is going to be handed off to that Envoy sidecar. And from that point of view, now you have a fully managed service mesh. So from the service mesh interfaces, we have several of them. You can configure what you need to configure and observe what's going on within your application if you need to profile it for troubleshooting or increasing SLA or whatever. So anyway, this is again a rough, high-level sort of view of service mesh. And in your lab, you're going to have a few exercises on that where you get to spin it up and click through the various observability tools so that you can kind of see what's going on. Okay. So here are detailed goals. We said, one of the goals was just to have you be able to deploy a Hello World Java application. We're holding to that. But if you stick to it and work through the workshop lab exercises, here are some more takeaways you can have. Containerization of a Java application. We're going to deploy it into OpenShift. Call that level 1 of your goals here. Level 2 is you're going to leverage OpenShift services in the application management, so you can scale up and down and make some changes and things like that. We also have an exercise on triggering new builds and deployments from a code update. Now this exercise, in order to fit this into the 3-hour time frame that we had for virtual workshops, we don't have a Jenkins server like we have had in the past. We removed that to make room for the service mesh pieces, but it's still left in there so you can see conceptually what's happening, because you'll be able to make a code update and then just imagine that you have some sort of pipeline automation, and that pipeline automation will interact with the OpenShift API and trigger a build. Well, you'll be using the command line to trigger that build, and that command line is interacting with the exact same API. So it's more of a conceptual thing, but it is actually something you will be doing. So you'll make the code update manually and then kick off the new build manually, but it's pretty easy to imagine how this could fit in with any automation, not just the stuff that comes with OpenShift or comes from Red Hat. Any sort of automation can be built using the Open API. And then the last thing we would like you to do is integrate an application with the Red Hat Service Mesh and see what kinds of benefits that component has been added to our offering. Got a couple, 3 references here. Stone Door Group, OpenShift Container Platform, some of our resources. docs.openshift.com. We cannot overstate how key that is. It's a very, very well maintained documentation source. It's split up across the various versions, whether you have a managed version of OpenShift or your own on-premises of OpenShift and so on. So recommend you check that out. And then, since we're focused on containerizing applications, we've got a link to the container catalog for Red Hat, and pre-populated the search term for you for Java. You can see the various, the many Java container offerings that are there. All right, so this ends the presentation part. Just want to give you one last objective again, is we need everybody, well, not need, but we really, really want you to be able to deploy an OpenShift, a Hello World application into OpenShift. So if you run into problems, we are here to help, and let's go, get you guys through this, and while we do it, ask as many questions as you like. I'm going to hand it back to you, Andrea.
Great, thanks, CJ. All right, you guys, before we break out into the labs, I just want to remind you guys that we've got 2 additional workshops after this one. July 8th, we've got the Red Hat for Windows Admin Part 2. And then we also have on August 5th, migrating legacy applications. So hopefully you guys can join us for those. And then just a quick reminder of a couple service offerings as you guys learn more about OpenShift Container and are interested in implementing it yourself. We do have an OpenShift Container Platform Accelerator engagement where we're going to provide the subscriptions as well as consulting services to ensure you successfully implement OpenShift. If you are interested in our complimentary access to an OpenShift lab environment following today's session, please reach out to us at letsdothis@stonedoorgroup.com and we can get you set up with that. And then also at the close of today's event, so after the lab portion, you guys are going to see a survey poll. And we ask that you take a minute to answer a few brief questions to help us improve future presentations and events. What we want to do now is go ahead and transition everybody to the lab environment. As we had mentioned earlier, we've got 2 different groups we're going to break everybody out into. Those of you who elected the hands-on lab, you should have received credentials in an email. And you will also see a new Zoom call and the chat feature coming up. And what we want to do is have everybody who is participating in the hands-on lab, you can leave this Zoom and join the new Zoom information. If you guys can do that, you'll see it in the bottom right-hand side in the Zoom webinar chat with new Zoom information for you to go ahead and join that one. Everybody else that decided to do the observation, in other words, you're not doing the hands-on lab, stay in this group and remain on this session, and then the instructors are going to give everybody time to transition, and we'll begin in just a few minutes. Again, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and enter them into the chat feature and we can address anything that you may have. But again, hands-on option, please go ahead, leave this room and go to the new Zoom. And then anybody that's doing the demo and just wants to observe, you can just stay in this bridge. So thanks again for your participation in today's workshop.